more time. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here today. It's really inspiring to see so many passionate, dedicated individuals gathered to support reproductive rights. First and foremost, I want to extend my personal deepest gratitude to the incredible organizers who have made this rally possible. Thank you to the folks at Free and Just. Your hard work and dedication and your tireless efforts brought us all together here today. From securing permits and arranging speakers and coordinating logistics and spreading the word, your commitment to this cause is nothing short of extraordinary. And it's not just this stop, we are the first stop, Madison, the entire bus. So thank you to all the volunteers and the staff working behind the scenes, and thank you for your contributions. I also want to acknowledge and thank all of the speakers. Thank you for being here. Thank you for telling your stories. Thank you for sharing your courage and your wisdom with us today. And to each one of you who came out to be part of this, thank you for being here, for taking time out of your busy day. We so appreciate you. It shows that we together stand in solidarity with those who are fighting for reproductive rights and justice. My name is Reverend Tim Schaefer. I am the pastor at First Baptist Church in Madison. Yes, you heard that right. I am a Baptist pastor. And I support reproductive freedom. I support reproductive freedom because freedom is a core principle of my faith tradition. Historic Baptists first came to America to escape religious persecution in Europe. They wanted freedom to practice their religion as they saw fit. They wanted to be free from government intervention and intrusion. And in fact, in case you don't know this, it was the founder of the First Baptist Church in America who actually coined the phrase separation of church and state, which Thomas Jefferson later immortalized in his correspondence with Baptists who were urging our founders to enshrine religious freedoms in our Constitution. Freedom is a core tenet of my Baptist faith, and that includes the freedom to decide if, when, and how to start a family. That includes the freedom to decide whether to end a pregnancy, and that most certainly includes the freedom to make medical decisions about your own body. People should have the right to decide what is best for their lives, and we should trust them to make those decisions. As a pastor, I've counseled members of my churches and of the community on their family planning decisions. Those conversations often involve discussion about receiving abortion care. In those deep conversations, we explore what decisions are best for their lives and for their families, and what decisions best fit with their expression of faith and their relationship with the divine. And I remind them in every case that whatever they decide, they are loved. I gotta say, those words, "you are loved," those should always be a given. I shouldn't have to remind anybody that they are loved. But political and religious extremists have created an atmosphere of fear and shame through a disturbing pattern of condemnation and control by weaponizing religious scripture. To this day, political extremists continue to erode the separation of church and state. They are attempting to legislate morality based on their narrow interpretation of Christian scriptures and impose their will on every person in this country. But this is not about morality. Make no mistake, what they are doing is about power and control. When I look to the words of Jesus, his harshest criticisms are reserved for those who use religious laws as tools of oppression. Yet that is exactly how extremists have wielded their political power. And in doing so, they have forsaken the very religious teachings that they often claim to follow. Let me be crystal clear. I am a Christian too, and I dissent. I am a fierce supporter of the right to abortion access because of my faith, not despite it. And I'm not alone. There's a long history within the faith community here in Wisconsin and across the country of defending the right to abortion. I see some clergy out here, if you want to wave. We are not going to be silent. We refuse to be drowned out by those who cloak oppression in a veil of religious beliefs. People of all faiths, and those who do not subscribe to any particular faith, must stand together against the siege on our freedoms before we lose our right to make decisions about our own health, families, and futures. I'm so grateful for those who have gathered here and those of you who are doing this really important work. I want to introduce someone who is doing this great work, Ali Muldrow, and invite them up to join me. They are the Executive Director of Women's Medical Fund, Wisconsin.
It's great to be out here on this pretty gorgeous day, and it's also a really serious moment in reproductive justice. My name is Ali Muldrow. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am the Executive Director of WMF, and we fund abortion. Right now is a moment that requires courage. It requires the courage and the audacity to stand by people who have been stigmatized and shamed and forced into isolation. What we do at WMF is ensure that no one is denied access to the medical care that they need because they cannot afford it. I believe the role of government when it comes to abortion is the same as the role of government when it comes to any other kind of healthcare. It is to remove barriers and provide access. At no point in pregnancy can the government determine for someone the severity of their medical reality. I'm a teacher, y'all, and so I gotta get a little teacher here. Raise your hand if you know what the leading cause of death is related to pregnancy. It is not childbirth. It is homicide. It is domestic violence. The complexities and nuance that relate to pregnancy in our society are things that we cannot ignore. I am a survivor of domestic violence. I am a person who has had an abortion, and I've often said that my ability to access abortion care saved my life. It allowed for me to be here today as the person that I am. As a survivor of domestic violence, what I know is that the circumstances surrounding anyone's relationship, life, pregnancy are deeply private and incredibly complex. And none of us can position ourselves to place judgment on what somebody else is doing in the interest of their own safety and survival. I think a lot of times when we think about funding abortion, we think about the role of poverty and economic injustice and the way that that intersects with both racial and gender justice. When I was a young mom in my early 20s, everything was hard to afford. And so one of the best days I ever had was finding a stroller at a garage sale. And I was so excited that I might be able to afford this stroller. I walked up to the person selling it and said, how much is it? And I'll never forget what the woman selling it said to me. She said, no one should have to pay for something so necessary. The people who fund abortion believe wholeheartedly that no one should have to pay for something as necessary as reproductive health care. I want to thank you all for being courageous enough to stand up for abortion access and for joining us here today. And I want to welcome to the podium one of the most tremendous local leaders we've got, Dana Pellebon.
Thank you so much, Ali. Ali is someone that I look up to and respect so immensely. Thank you all for being here. My name is Dana Pellebon. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm the Executive Director of RCC Sexual Violence Resource Center. We are one of the oldest rape crisis centers in the nation. In fact, we received our 501c3 in 1973, the same year that Roe v. Wade was codified into law. I could tell you about the many stories of why survivors need abortion rights and the horror stories of those who struggled after the Supreme Court made their decision. But instead, I'm going to tell you the story of my abortion. I had consensual, protected sex. I didn't realize the condom had broken until a month and a half later when I was really sick. After finding out I was pregnant, I spoke to a couple of close friends of mine and decided to have an abortion. I didn't know how I would feel because society and our culture has placed a strong morality around reproductive choices that I kept waiting to feel bad, to regret my decision, to have an emotional response. What's funny is the first emotional response I had came when I showed up to Planned Parenthood for my abortion. And there were people outside yelling at me for choosing health care for my body. I was angry that these people made judgments upon me from a medical procedure that they had nothing to do with. When I got into Planned Parenthood, the environment was supportive and professional. Immediately after the procedure, I felt great. Then I wondered, am I supposed to feel great? Isn't this the part where I'm supposed to be crying and feeling regret? That night, when I was eating my favorite meal and watching TV, and for the first time in weeks feeling good, I realized there was no other shoe that was going to drop. I didn't feel bad in the slightest. Instead, I felt that I made the right choice for me and my family. The narrative around mental health of people with uteruses choosing abortion is meant to limit our access to health care and meant to moralize decisions that should be made privately. I didn't have an abortion because I or my fetus were in medical danger. I had an abortion because I wanted to live the life that I wanted to live in the way that I wanted to live it. And I do not regret that decision. So next, I would like to introduce Dr. Kathy Hartke with the United Methodists for Reproductive Justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you for sharing that story that is so necessary for people to understand. Abortion care is health care. When I graduated high school in 1972, girls with undesired pregnancies were either forced to birth, removed from school, sent away to homes for unwed mothers, and give their babies up for adoption, or have unsafe abortions by leaving the country or finding someone who would do an illegal abortion. My physician mentors described entire hospital wards where women were suffering and even dying from septic abortions. We cannot turn back the clock. In 1973, when Roe v. Wade was decided, we rejoiced that finally women had the right to bodily autonomy, reproductive choices, and life-saving abortion care. The Roe v. Wade decision reduced maternal mortality rates by 30 to 40% for people of color by securing access to safe and legal abortions, and reduced maternal mortality in general. In 1983, during my 4-year OBGYN residency at Mount Sinai Hospital in Milwaukee, I received abortion training as required by the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Pregnancy has risks, and we received women from all over the state who had severe life-threatening complications or a fetal with lethal anomalies. They were counseled about treatment options and chose to terminate their pregnancies. Even Catholic hospitals who couldn't terminate sent patients for care. It was the most compassionate and ethical decision, and it was the mother's right. A little 10-year-old girl who was a victim of incest and had a 50% chance of dying received an abortion that likely saved her life. But it isn't just about rape, incest, and the physical life of the mother. Only the pregnant person has the right to decide when and if they desire an abortion. Roe v. Wade worked for 49 years. Then on June 24th, 2022, the Dobbs decision ended the right to legal abortion, and Wisconsin women and families suffered. Abortion care immediately stopped due to the misinterpretation of the 1849 law. Persons scheduled for abortion were canceled. Birthing persons carrying a fetus with lethal anomalies had to be sent to Illinois or Minnesota if they had transportation, sick time, and money. Insurance often did not pay. Others were able to get medication for first trimester abortion. Agencies had case managers to help women get the care that they needed. People sought out long-acting contraception. Sadly, many young women are opting for sterilization due to fear of an unwanted pregnancy with no options. Not only were women impacted, several colleagues contacted me that evening panicked because they were on call that weekend. What should they do if a person presented with a severe complication and needed to have an abortion? If they practiced how they were trained and with the standard of care, they would be criminals and could lose their license, be fined thousands of dollars, and put in prison. If they did not provide the ethical care required, it would be malpractice. It was a no-win situation. I told them what I would do, provide the care that I knew was the best medical care I was trained to do. For months, patients and healthcare providers lived in fear. Since 2022, many OBGYNs have left Wisconsin or retired early. In Wisconsin, there were 88% fewer applications for OBGYN residencies. Wisconsin's doctor shortage has only gotten worse, as physicians often stay where they are trained. Many OBGYNs have left Wisconsin or retired early. In Wisconsin, there were 88% fewer applications for OBGYN residencies. Wisconsin's doctor shortage has only gotten worse, as physicians often stay where they are trained. Birthing units have closed at St. Francis, Oshkosh, Menominee Falls, and others in northern Wisconsin, causing obstetrical deserts where prenatal care and perinatal centers are miles away. Nationally, maternal death rates in abortion-restricted states were 62% higher than in states with greater abortion access. Efforts to take away our freedoms didn't stop by ending Roe, they only intensified. The extremist anti-abortion playbook has expanded to include attacks on access to in vitro fertilization, restrictions on access to medical abortion, and personhood bills where a fertilized egg of 2 cells has more rights than a living, breathing, birthing person. We already have a personhood law in Wisconsin where women lose their rights when they become pregnant. Act 292, also called the Cocaine Mom Law, allows women suspected of using substances to be put in jail if they refuse treatment, even if they are no longer using the substance. The fetus gets a guardian ad litem, and the mother does not get an attorney. One pregnant woman was even put in solitary confinement in jail. How ill must a person be to have an emergency medical abortion after 21 weeks, 6 days? In 2018, I testified against the 20-week abortion ban, the law that states a physician could not do a life-saving abortion after 20 weeks post-fertilization unless a person was within 24 hours of dying or having serious risk of substantial and irreversible impairment of one or more of the woman's major bodily functions. I don't know how to predict when she's within 24 hours, and I'm not going to wait. Only 1% of abortions are performed after 22 weeks, and almost all are for severe anomalies of the fetus or to save a mother's life. These decisions need to be made by the birthing person with consultation from medical experts, not legislators. And let's set the record straight. There is no medical term of partial birth abortion or late-term abortions. These are inflammatory political terms. Providers do not murder babies. I recently retired as co-chair of the Wisconsin Maternal Mortality Review Team after 5 years. The team reviews the death of all Wisconsin birthing persons who are pregnant or died within 12 months after delivery. One key question we would ask is, would she have died if she were not pregnant? Pregnancy has risks of severe cardiac conditions, diabetes, hypertension, kidney failure, postpartum depression resulting in suicide, and intimate partner violence resulting in murder, as we have already heard. Sadly, 80 to 90% of these deaths are preventable. In 2010, there were 25 maternal deaths in our state. For the past 3 years, there have been nearly 50 maternal deaths each year in Wisconsin, even while the birth rate is the lowest it has ever been. For every death, there are approximately 70 to 80 persons who have severe complications or a near miss from death. This is unacceptable. Even when abortion was legal, some providers and hospitals would not allow abortions if a fetal heartbeat was detected, even if there was an impending miscarriage with bleeding and cervical dilation. Persons have been sent home more than once to wait, only to return with sepsis, a severe infection, and they died because of a miscarriage. This should not happen in the United States. A common reason women seek abortions in Wisconsin is that they were denied a tubal ligation or sterilization at the time of their last delivery. If you deliver at a Catholic hospital in Wisconsin, you cannot have a sterilization procedure, even during a cesarean delivery. We need sex education, access to contraception, and access to abortion. After judicial decisions, abortion has been legal in Wisconsin since September 18th of 2023 and is performed in Madison, Milwaukee, and Sheboygan up to 20-week, 1 week, 6 days. However, there are still barriers to accessing abortion care in Wisconsin. 70% of Americans support abortion in most or all cases. But did you know that 70% of Americans have not heard of Project 2025? This is scary. And if you have not looked at it, I encourage you today to look it up, read some of it. There are some great videos by Velshi on MSNBC that are short. Quote, "The Dobbs decision is just the beginning," quote, reads the foreword of Project 2025, officially titled Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise. It is 900 pages of the evangelical conservative overhaul of government to start immediately if conservatives are in control. Abortion is mentioned 199 times throughout Project 2025. The blueprint aims to prevent abortion from the moment of conception, which would likely involve establishing so-called personhood rights for embryos and fetuses, as well as banning abortion pills. I believe our country was founded on religious freedom. It is time for progressive Christians and people of other faiths to lift their voices. Dr. Kate Ott, Christian ethicist, has found no reference about abortion in the Bible, only care for the life of the mother. We need to stop the judgment and stigma. I am proud to say that in May 2024, the United Methodist Church voted to approve a petition reaffirming a right to safe legal abortion and pledging solidarity to those who seek reproductive health care and approving peaceful protest. Do not trust the conservatives even when they say leave it up to the states. The only people who can stop them are you and me. Educate your friends. Vote your values. Thank you. And now please welcome the pastor of Sherman Avenue Church, Reverend David Hart.
Good morning. My name is Reverend David Hart, and I am the pastor of Sherman Avenue United Methodist Church. We're a growing, thriving church on the north side. We're open and affirming, and one of our pillars of community is the protection and advancement of women, particularly as it relates to not just care and health care, but also reproductive justice. I believe that my holy assignment today is to, there is a well-rounded battery of speakers here. My job and my assignment, my holy assignment, is simply to add a word of encouragement and call to action to everyone, but to people of faith particularly. And so please pray that I understood that assignment. Beloved friends, right this moment, right this second, a child is being born. And because of what the demographers have told us, we know that that child will likely be assigned and identified as a girl. And this girl will be black, she'll be brown, she'll be white. She'll be Latina, she'll be Hispanic, she'll be African American, she'll be Dutch, she'll be all kinds of things. She will be from the north, she'll be from the south, she'll be from the western coast. She'll be middle class, she'll be rich, she'll be working class, she'll be into volleyball. She may never be into boys, ever. She'll be a scholar, she'll be a world traveler, she'll be a lot of things. She'll represent the diverse complexities of this nation. But you can bet that if she is born right now, in the confines of this country, her access to reproductive health care will be severely limited. She'll be severely limited not for any other reason other than legislators, legislatures, and courts for the last several years, even into decades, have gone through tremendous pains to alleviate her rights, to restrict her rights, to roll back her rights to reproductive health care, and to see her as not fully human. In fact, not only are we talking about a national abortion ban, but the Supreme Court has restricted her access to health care and said that the right to abortion and the right to choose for herself is no longer seen as a right that's guaranteed by the Constitution. And so while these legislators and legislators and courts are rolling back her rights, we know that the vast majority of Americans support free access to abortion and free access to reproductive health. Some 70% of all Americans believe in a woman's right to choose. Protestants, white and black, over 73% believe in the right to choose for a woman. And that's awesome. But we believe that not only is America behind us in this movement, but also we believe that our Creator is also behind us. The scriptures repeatedly tell us that Jesus not only hastened his death and resurrection by marching and marching toward rights for women and being on the side of women, but every instance the Gospels tell us and the accounts tell us that Jesus was adamant about ensuring that women had the right to choose what was happening with their bodies. And so this morning I'm telling you, I'm calling on us to take this majority, to take our Creator's wishes, and to fight back, to march in, to sit in, to demonstrate, to pray, to call legislators, but to mostly to vote. We hold this power. And we have to stand on the side of women, we have to stand on the side of justice, and we have to stand on the side of right. We can't. Yeah. Tell me one place where Jesus said to interrupt me while I'm articulating how God is on the side of women. So I'm asking you, because we have people just like this in this world, in this community, who don't have a full understanding of the scriptures. And so I'm asking you to walk in, to march in, to fight on, and to carry on, and to do this work for women, on behalf of women. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll come and see you later. I'll come and see you. I'll come and see you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Irene Strobin. I am president of the Appleton Area Now chapter. I came from about a two-hour drive away. The Appleton area has a total population of over 400,000, including the Oshkosh area. I mean, people in Madison may not be aware of how large our area is. Total population, including Green Bay of Northeast Wisconsin, is about 1.3 million. So we are a force to contend with. We are the only NOW chapter in Wisconsin right now. We've reestablished NOW's presence here only about 4 months ago, when it was clear that the new war on women required coming together, organizing, and taking back our power. The women of Northeast Wisconsin agree. We already have 72 members and over 400 followers. NOW was established way back in 1966 during the feminist movement of the 60s and 70s, and is the largest organization of intersectional feminist grassroots activists in the country. We have a women's rights platform of 6 core issues, with the most urgent being reproductive rights and the Equal Rights Amendment. The other issues are also important. They include economic justice for women, ending violence against women, and the intersectional issues of racial justice and LGBTQ rights. Our members and followers are fired up and are focused on taking action for reproductive rights. A few weeks ago, we had a protest march and rally to mark the 2nd anniversary of the Dobbs decision, which overturned Roe v. Wade. At the rally, we heard many stories from our members about the necessity of abortion care and contraception. Just 2 weeks prior to our march, the Republicans in the U.S. Senate voted down the Right to Contraception Act. Who would have thought in the 21st century we would still be talking about the right to contraception? Arizona's Republican-controlled legislature also turned away a similar bill earlier this year. Clearly, all of our reproductive rights are under attack. So at our rally, one of our members reminded us that as recently as the early 1970s, only married women were allowed to get birth control. So when she was not married yet, but was looking to get birth control, she fabricated an entire story about her marriage to a fictitious husband just to pass an intensely personal quiz with the pharmacist. Can you imagine that? We also heard the story from an OBGYN who knew what medical care she needed when her fetus was not viable. But she could not receive that care here in Wisconsin because of the 21-week abortion ban. She had to travel out of state to get her abortion at 25 weeks to protect her ability to have future children. As she says, it is not a political decision, it is a medical decision. The overturning of Roe and the states and the Senate's turning down the Right to Contraception Act are all part of a slippery slope, and we don't like where we see it going. Will our futures be a handmaid's tale? The conservatives' moves to pass a federal abortion ban really take us down that slippery slope. To us, this attack on women is taking away our rights to control our bodies, our freedom to choose, and eventually our equal access to having a productive life and career. Thank you, Free and Just, for allowing me to add our collective NOW voices to this rally. Our favorite quote from Joan Baez back in the 70s is, "Action is the antidote to despair." We remind our members all the time of that when they feel overwhelmed with the attacks on our freedoms. NOW is here to take action. Thank you. And now, Representative Lisa Subeck is here.
Thank you all. Just gonna tilt this a little bit. There we go. So I'm State Representative Lisa Subeck. Really glad to be here today. Really glad Free and Justice here in our community here in Madison, launching their bus tour with this incredible bus. Woo, very exciting. And I'm particularly happy to have the support here because the state of our reproductive freedom here in Wisconsin in particular and across the nation is in jeopardy. When push comes to shove, the decision of if and when to start a family, if and when to give birth to children is one of the most personal decisions that most of us will ever make in our lifetime. And it is important that we engage the people who we count on in those moments. We engage with our physicians, we engage with our families. In some cases, we choose to engage with our clergy or other support folks. The person we don't engage with is our politician. I have yet to have one person, and I've been in office in the state capitol for 10 years now. I was on the city council for 4 years before that, 14 years. Not one person has walked into my office and said to me, do you think it's time for me to start a family? Do you think I should have a child? Do you think I should terminate a pregnancy? And they don't ask me those questions because it's not my decision to make. As an elected official, it is my role to ensure that individuals have access to the health care they need when they need it. It is not my role to make those decisions for them. I have stood by and watched as time and time again, extreme conservative politicians and elected officials here in Wisconsin and at the federal level have taken swipe after swipe at our rights to make our own health care decisions. Whether it's making it harder to get an abortion, eventually banning abortion, trying to come up with new and improved and creative ways to ban abortion, we have seen those swipes come time and time again, and it's not limited to abortion. It is access to reproductive health care in general, and it is access to contraception. There are two major pieces of legislation that my colleagues and I have been working on for years. We have, number one, been trying to overturn the 1849 law, a law that was passed in Wisconsin prior to the Civil War, prior to women having the right to vote, that bans, or that has been interpreted to potentially ban abortion. And in fact, the law was used to put a freeze on abortion in Wisconsin for nearly a year until a judge made a ruling that that law was not enforceable. That said, don't rest on our laurels, because that decision was immediately appealed by a conservative district attorney, not eternity. That decision was immediately appealed, and it's on its way to our state Supreme Court. We do not know how the court will rule. I am hopeful that abortion will stay safe and legal and accessible in Wisconsin, but we do not know that. And even if we get a positive ruling in our state Supreme Court, one change on the bench on that court could be the difference between losing that right to access abortion all over again. It is unconscionable that our courts have reached a point where they are so politicized that decisions are not made to guarantee people our freedom, that decisions by the courts are not being made to ensure that we have access to what we need to thrive and to live in this country and to have all the constitutional rights that were afforded to my mom. I have less rights than I shouldn't say that. My mom is, I guess my nieces will have less rights than I and my mom did. My mom was around pre-Roe, so she got rights and then they were taken back away. So a little hard to make that connection. But my nieces who are in high school now have less rights than I did at their age. And that is shameful. And that is the direct result of conservative politicians and extreme conservative justices, courts that have been deliberately packed by those conservative politicians who want to roll back our rights. I remember standing at a press conference like this on what I consider to be the last happy anniversary of Roe v. Wade's decision. And at that time, we saw, it was in the air, we were worried and said, we hope this isn't the last time we are standing here celebrating the decision of Roe v. Wade, and our opportunity to make our own reproductive health choices. We hope this isn't the last time we were up there celebrating our reproductive freedom. Unfortunately, our fears came true. The Dobbs decision made our fears come true. And not only did we lose access to abortion here in our state and in so many states around the nation due to the Dobbs decision, but the Dobbs decision puts other critical decisions by the Supreme Court at risk. It puts the decision that gave us access to contraception, the Griswold decision, at risk. It was named. It puts the right to same-sex marriage, the Obergefell, which I have trouble saying, decision, that gave folks the right to same-sex marriage. It puts the Loving decision that gave people the right to interracial marriage at risk. Folks, this is serious, and this is why we need to take action, and we take action by getting out there and voting for folks who will support our rights. We take action by making our voices heard in our state capitals, by contacting your state legislators and legislators across the state and nation, by contacting your congresspeople and your senators. We have 2 senators here in Wisconsin, one who is firmly on our side, Tammy Baldwin, and one who has time and time again not stood with us, Ron Johnson. Get on the phone with him. Let him know what you think, because it is our basic reproductive freedom that is at risk. How can we be free if we cannot make our own decisions about our own bodily autonomy, about our own families, and our own futures? Again, I'll say once again, it is time we stand together, we make our voices heard, and stand up for our reproductive freedom. Please do that at the ballot box and every day up until then. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that. I almost forgot to introduce my former colleague in the state legislature, who then left us to serve as our state's lieutenant governor, former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, the other Mandela. I got it all in.
Well, thank you so much, Representative Subeck, for getting us absolutely fired up and truly making the case like no one else can. I am truly honored to be here for so many reasons, but I will start by saying that I am here specifically, when I say specifically, I'm here in existence because my mother had the right to choose. A number of folks know my story. She was so courageous as to actually share her story a couple years ago with an audience larger than she probably could have ever imagined. So before I was born, my mother was pregnant, and that pregnancy came with some very, very severe complications. My mother had to make a decision, and she had to make a decision that was right for her. And she had to make a decision that made the most sense, and it was not an easy one for her. She desperately wanted to have a child, she and my father, but the time wasn't right for her due to those complications that she was dealing with, and her life was at risk, not to mention the life of of the fetus. So she made the decision, and it wasn't some politician's decision, as she said. It was hers. It was hers to make, but not hers alone. Hers, my father, her family, you name it. And there are so many other people in very similar situations, like the one my mom faced. But I cannot think about what could have happened if she was forced to go all the way through with that experience. I certainly wouldn't have been here. My mother, she gets real stressed out, real easy, real quick. And if she would have had to deal with a situation that would have put her own life at risk, she certainly wouldn't have made the choice to try again. And I wouldn't be here today to talk to you on behalf of so many men who are standing up for those who are fighting for the right to make a decision, fighting for a right that we shouldn't have to fight for. This just should be the case. But too many people have put their own self-interest into the lives of others. And it's not just abortion, there's so many other issues, but we're talking about abortion today. And I couldn't be more proud to be surrounded by such a community that understands what freedom truly means, what freedom truly represents in a state where our motto is forward. It is a shame how we've been taken backwards. But standing here together with so many people on such an amazing day, I feel good about the fight ahead because of the folks that I'm in this fight with. And when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade a couple years ago and eliminated the legal right to abortion, the floodgates opened as well. And states all across the country began forcing American women to live with extreme and harmful abortion bans and restrictions. And efforts to take away our freedom didn't stop at ending Roe, they only intensified. The extremist anti-abortion playbook is nothing new, but it's expanded to include attacks on access to IVF treatment, which was talked about earlier, restrictions on access to medication, and even more. There are extremist lawmakers, many of whom me and Representative Subeck have served with, many extremist lawmakers who remain committed to passing a national abortion ban and will stop at nothing to continue to take away more of our rights, even though Americans, regardless of their geography, regardless of their gender, regardless of their political party, support abortion rights. And in fact, federal action to support and protect abortion access and reproductive health care has never been more important, nor has it been more popular than it is today. Nearly 7 in 10 Americans want federal action to protect abortion access this year. The majority of Americans support protecting access to abortion, but that hasn't stopped anti-abortionists, and it hasn't stopped extremists, it hasn't stopped conservative lawmakers from undermining Americans' access to everything from abortion care to birth control to IVF. They even boast about their attacks on reproductive freedom. It's all a part of their playbook, and they want to roll back our rights even further. As I said before, the only people that can stop this from happening is those of you who are with us today. And those who couldn't make it today as well. But every time these extremists have an opportunity to protect access to reproductive health care at the federal level, they vote against it. They vote against our freedom. They vote against the right to choose. They vote against American women. And earlier this summer, conservatives in the Senate blocked both protections for access to basic birth control, like oral contraceptives and IEDs, and also the Right to IVF Act, and the guarantee of access to IVF treatment and steps that will make the procedure more affordable for families all across the country. We have to do everything we possibly can to hold these people accountable. We need to do absolutely everything we can to educate our community members about their attacks on reproductive freedom. We need to be very clear, crystal clear, about how these attacks harm women, how they harm families, how they harm each and every single one of us. Abortion is currently banned after 21 weeks, 6 days in Wisconsin. And when people seek abortion care in Wisconsin, they may be forced to make 2 trips, one for in-person counseling and another at least 24 hours later for the abortion. This creates an enormous strain on somebody making an incredibly difficult decision. Patients may be forced to get an ultrasound, even when that ultrasound is medically unnecessary. Medication abortion must be provided in person here because the state bans the use of telehealth or requires an in-person visit. And over the last 6 months, an average of 350 clinician-provided abortion procedures took place each month in Wisconsin. There has been an 87.6% decrease in clinician-provided abortions in Wisconsin since 2020. 112 abortion-related legislative actions have been introduced in this state since 2023. But there are people who are out there fighting. There are people just like you in communities all across Wisconsin. Thank you for bringing up the Fox cities. The Fox Valley is one of the most rapidly growing areas in this state, here in Madison specifically, but even in rural Wisconsin. As I made my journey all across the state a couple years ago, I met so many folks who were incensed at the decisions that they were being made because their freedoms were being taken away. So what I see as an unfortunate reality that we're dealing with, I see an incredible organizing opportunity. An opportunity for us to organize to come back stronger than ever before, not just to protect abortion access, but to do even more to bring freedom to so many other communities across this country. I truly believe that we can get this done. I'm not one to give up, and I know the folks who are here with me today are not willing to give up. And somebody who I'm so proud to be joining this fight with, somebody who I've seen from afar but have since had a chance to develop a friendship with, somebody who's been fearless, somebody who it seems like we can't keep out of Wisconsin these days. We need to be careful about her ambitions. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. See, the door is always open for you to be here. Truly excited to introduce my friend from Reproductive for All, Mini Timmaraju.
Listen, I'm only in Wisconsin so much because we got to win Wisconsin, right? There's a lot of work to do, y'all. Okay, so you've heard from a lot of really excellent speakers. I have some great remarks here, but I'm going to wind them up and close it out. So here's the deal. You've heard from local leaders, folks in the fight here, folks providing access, faith leaders who are courageously helping us make sure that folks know there is not a contradiction between reproductive freedom and your faith, providers who are taking risks, folks who are raising money and distributing funds. These are the heroes of our movement, so I want to give them another round of applause. Elected officials who in the face of really tough fights stand up for us and run for office. We are so grateful. My name is Mini Timmaraju. I'm the president and CEO of Reproductive Freedom for All. Our 4 million members across the United States are so honored to join with our friends at Free and Just on the kickoff of this tour, Ride to Decide. We got a lot of big things to decide, y'all. We've got incredibly dangerous gathering just about over an hour away from here, right? Where we've got anti-abortion extremists, anti-freedom, anti-democracy extremists trying to take away our rights even now. The threat still remains. The threat is real. 2 years after the Dobbs decision, we are still fighting. 21 states with abortion bans and extreme restrictions. And we have a chance. We have a chance to really fix this mess. I want to leave you with a couple of things from today. Number one, 8 out of 10 Americans are with us. No matter what you hear on the margins, we are the majority. It's so important as you're going out there every day talking about these issues to remember, we're the majority. We have the majority of Americans on our side, and that majority includes Republicans and independents, infrequent voters, folks who, most of Gen Z, every generation, men and women. So I want you to remember that every day when you get up. And these people are angry. They are angry and motivated and fired up about these abortion bans and restricting their fundamental right to make decisions about their own bodies. And as the Reverend said earlier, if, when, and how to decide when to have a family. And nationwide, every time abortion's on the ballot, every single time, and y'all saw it here just last year, abortion wins. So I want you to remember that as we're continuing the fight. The bottom line is this: as long as abortion bans remain on the books, we're going to continue to see the horrifying scenarios you heard about today. Since these bans have been allowed to go into effect, people will continue to be blocked from the care they need. But the folks you saw today and all of us who are part of the coalition with Free and Just, we will not stop. We will keep fighting back to secure our freedoms. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to throw it back to Kelly with Free and Just to close us out.
Thanks, everyone. I really want to thank our speakers. We had an incredible lineup here today. I know we have a handful of folks from the media. If you're interested in connecting with any of our speakers for a pull aside, please see me and I will help facilitate that. Otherwise, I just want to give one last round of applause for our incredible speakers today, and thank you all so much.